New Moon in Pisces, occurring March 18th. Welcome to the first new moon, where my intention is to give you helpful information of the current astrological transits, the energy and the collective consciousness of humanity, weird science, and ways to harness it all for your benefit for the coming 28 days. Many years ago, a dear friend came to me crying and upset. She wanted advice on one of those age-old questions where the listener may try to offer comfort and support, but usually can't offer anything of substantial help barring those of a purely practical nature. The question was, should I break up with my boyfriend? As I listened to my friend pour out her difficulties from their 2-year relationship, my empathy absorbed her pain until my chest hurt and I thought my heart might burst. I felt my body growing numb with her grief and knew that I would be unable to function soon. A sense of desperate helplessness to do something was rising. I can't help her, I thought. I'm going to drown in her pain, and neither one of us will benefit. Then I said a silent prayer in my head. Help me help her, please. Suddenly the top of my head opened up and a flood of information poured into me about their relationship. I found myself sensing my friend, her boyfriend, and their relationship as nothing more than signatures of energy, dynamic and pulsing with emotions, desires, and unconscious patterns and agendas. I felt no judgment. There was nothing inherently bad or good in the energy. I was observing dynamics that simply existed. I interrupted her then and began to talk. After detaching from the unhelpful empathy, I told my friend objectively about everything that was coming to me in the form of energy regarding her relationship. To my surprise, she stopped crying. When I'd finished, she was quiet for a few moments, then said she knew what she needed to do. I was 19 years old. I wasn't sure what had happened, which made it impossible to explain to anyone, but I knew that I needed to find ways to cultivate and amplify this process of what I call tracking energy that I could use to help people. So I went about obtaining the education credentials that people could recognize and understand so that I could switch to using whatever language a person understood in order to help them. From the formal education of my degrees to the certifications in meditation, psychic development, and astrology, it was all to become fluent in the various languages that people use to discuss patterns, processes, and ways of healing that, in their simplest forms, reduce down to nothing more than energy. In Einstein's words, everything is energy, and that's all there is to it. Match the frequency of the reality you want, and you cannot help but get that reality. It can be no other way. This is not philosophy. This is physics. Long before I was giving chart readings as an evolutionary astrologer, I started out by being hired as a psychic reader at a metaphysical bookstore when I was 27. 15 years later, I realized that all I was doing in a psychic reading was tracking energy. And I found it much easier to track energy when using evolutionary astrology and a client's birth chart as a potential blueprint for the way a person operates to give me a place to start as a base for helping them. Now, if you're wondering where I'm going with all of this, please hang in there with me for a bit longer. Our current astrological cycle of Mercury retrograding through Pisces has been an especially challenging one since Mercury is in detriment in watery Pisces. A little like a fish out of water, it's uncomfortable. And since Mercury is the planet ruling how we think, communicate, and question, this period might have caused you to become aware of some of your patterns and unconscious pitfalls, and to wonder how to break free of them. I've recently discovered that a meditation I practiced for 18 years is very similar to a process called EMDR therapy. EMDR has become popular for therapists to use in order to help clients break free from unconscious patterns that were created by traumatic events. Traumatic events, or even seemingly insignificant events to you as an adult, but that cause trauma to you as a child, can leave us feeling stuck, trapped in our minds, and disconnected from our bodies. This disconnection can affect how we relate to ourselves and others, often in ways we don't fully understand, building walls in relationships, emotional outbursts, or numbness. EMDR works fast, It helps the brain process and digest traumatic memories, moving them from a state of present tense danger to a neutral past event. Furthermore, the therapist doesn't even need to know what traumatic memories you're clearing, which allows for more privacy. An even simpler but effective way of moving emotional energy is to get yourself to cry, beat up a pillow, or scream in your car. I've always found dancing alone, preferably barefoot outside at night, to be cathartic. Simply doing something to prevent emotions from being locked away to stagnate and instead getting them to flow helps. I'm very aware that I referenced / quoted psychotherapy, the power of prayer, psychic reading, meditation, astrology, and Einstein all together in the paragraphs above. That was deliberate in order to show you how the various languages, approaches, and beliefs we each espouse can all help you heal when you understand them and work with them as energy. As we move closer to this new moon season beginning March 18th and Mercury turning direct on March 20th, you've probably already been considering ways in which you feel stuck in life or perhaps patterns in relationships that don't serve you. I've watched the transformation of what EMDR therapy can do for an individual who is tired of repeating the same patterns. For a broader scope of your life purpose and work with potential wounds and remedies, consider having a birth chart reading with me or a solar return reading for your birthday for the year to come. Happy new moon in Pisces. Angela.